Hey everybody, welcome back to Labor Street Park. We're having a special edition episode tonight to cover history in the making. Russell Westbrook, the point guard for the Washington Wizards, just broke the all-time triple-double record held by Oscar Robertson for the last, I want to say 50, 55 years. It's been a while. It's a record nobody thought
It's been a while.
would ever be touched. Sebastian, initial thoughts on Westbrook breaking the record?
Initial thoughts is I think we're seeing it a lot on Twitter recently, in the past week or so with this leading up to him breaking the record. But it's pretty clear, we've been saying it for at least a month or two. Russ has definitely earned himself an all NBA team. And I don't think it's a stretch to say second team at this point. Wizards 13 and 4 in their last 17, or their last 4 losses have been by 1 point or overtime. So people can no longer say that Russ's triple doubles don't lead to wins, because it's just not true. That Wizards team is not supposed to be that good.
They're not. And, over the last month and a half, 2 months, I mean, they completely have his identity. They have his blueprint. And you said 13 and 4. And I think if you really break it down a little further, they're like 16 and 5 since they've kind of been playing Russ ball, so to speak. And the wins is really a red herring to begin with, because, the man wins 75% of his games when he gets a triple double. But I would have to say I absolutely agree that he's played his way into all NBA. I mean, he got off to an awful start to the season. I mean, he was bad. He was atrocious early in the season. But the way he's put this team on his back, and I mean, this is basically the same cast of characters in the Wizards from last year. Switch out John Wall for Russ, and John Wall wasn't even playing, but it's basically the same team that was just horrendous last year. 13 and 4 in their last 17. Like you said, that's such an amazing stat. All of their losses have either been by 1 point or in overtime. So any thoughts on the game? I know they were down 19, and not at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Atlanta came out at the beginning of the fourth up 17, and then they made another bucket. What was your thoughts on that comeback?
I actually kind of want to start with the previous game, if that's cool, because that previous game also, I mean, if you look at the box score, obviously you're going to see Russ triple double. But I mean, just the end of that game is probably legendary status. The block just to end the game, to seal the game. In a game that he's tying the record, to save a win. And I would say that this game could have been right up there. I mean, he basically brought the team back, not single-handedly, but he was setting up Bertans for some three-pointers.
He was getting
brought the team back from 19 down in a quarter, and was just a few inches away. That would have been the best way to break the record.
He should have went to the bucket at the end.
Agreed.
And, that last play where he made it, but he didn't get the foul call, that was a real no call. So my thinking on that is if you look at it, they kind of have the lane blocked, but if he just forces the issue, at worst, I think he gets a makeup call since they missed that call to play before. It's in the back of their head if he just forces the issue. But he was in his zone. He was in, Russ 2017 versus the Nuggets mode where, deep shot, get it. The highlight from when he beats the Nuggets.
I mean, he hit 3 already tonight, so I think he was pushing his luck.
Yeah, he was pushing his luck a little, but I agree with you. The game against the Pacers was incredible, least of all because the Pacers were a half game ahead of them in the standings, and that catapulted them. And, Russ isn't even known at this point of his career, as an all-star caliber defender anymore. And so it was amazing that he sealed the win on the defensive end.
Yeah, and then he tried to get his own rebound.
Yeah, if you watch that, after he gets the block, he kind of puts his hands out there. I think all the people that hate on him might have got a chuckle out of that.
I mean, although that is a instance of him stat padding his rebounds, that's the other thing I got to mention, because it's just the narrative is that Russ's rebounds are uncontested and they're not meaningless. I mean, it's true. A lot of them are uncontested, But I think if you watch a Wizards game and you see how much that sets up their offense, that for him to push the floor, or even, see an outlet pass, um, there's a reason why they're doing that, and it's leading to wins.
Absolutely. I
So
mean, you're
sure,
preaching to the choir here.
they're uncontested, but if you watch the games, you see the results and why they're doing it.
But he gets them and he pushes.
Yeah.
He pushes right away. And, the Wizards have the number one pace in the league. So, I mean, do you want Robin Lopez, Alex Len getting those rebounds and, husking up the floor? Or do you want Russ getting it and pushing it down and sometimes getting an assist or a bucket 4 or 5 seconds later?
I don't trust Alex Len to do anything.
Well, I'm not going to publicly hate on Alex Len, but I would rather Russ get those rebounds. So you were talking about the Pacers game. What about tonight? Because for long portions of the night, nobody looked good. Russ looked good early. The whole team, I think, the second and third quarter looked lackadaisical, and the defense was atrocious. But I don't want to talk about the defense because we could talk all night about why Bertans should never be guarding Trae Young. There's no world that
4 possessions in a row.
4 possessions, and it's at some point it's on Bertans, but then we're not technically a basketball podcast. I don't want to get into this, but at some point, Scott Brooks, why is Bertans always ending up on Trae Young? Every time I saw that, we were watching that game, I was groaning. So we don't want to talk about that. I'll just talk about that fourth quarter where they were down 19. What did you see there?
I think, part of the comeback too, and I don't know what's been happening recently, but, I don't know how much our audience would appreciate this, but definitely on Reddit, you've seen the interest spark in Daniel Gafford, who they got from the Bulls recently.
Go Gafford.
He was playing a lot immediately after the trade, and now he's not getting too many minutes, but he did play heavy minutes in the fourth. And that's part of the comeback too. So,
and he got what could have been, if Russ goes down and make that shot, Russ is the star of the show for the night, but Gafford would have got credit for blocking Capella. I think it was either, I don't remember who it was at the end, if it was Capella or John Collins, but Gafford gets the big block and he doesn't do the, a lot of young players like to swat it out of bounds, but he grabs it. He does the block rebound thing and he gets it to Russ. So that's a great play. That's for such a young player, you got to think how high of a basketball IQ play that is, to do that in, a second and a half, 2 seconds, to block the shot, get the rebound, and pass to Russ on the break. I mean, that's so high IQ right there. And Russ takes it down. He's in his zone. He doesn't drive. He shoots. Hey, but I was standing up because, I thought that was going in.
I mean,
I thought that was going in.
You got to drive just because of the play earlier. It's Horter. He can't guard Russ. So clearly there was a foul there.
Yes.
The refs were going to do a makeup call. Maybe not, but I think you got to risk it.
That's kind of disrespectful, that Huerter was Russ's primary defender all night, and Russ was cooking at different points. So, okay, so it was a great game. He gets the triple-double. I think we're both in agreement that he's all NBA. And my thought here is that he surpassed Harden just because I would say Harden has had the better season, but Harden has played. He hasn't played. So when he's been out there, I think, Harden's looked as good as anybody. He was in the MVP race. But I don't think, playing 34 games for the team he's on, I don't think you can put him in the All-NBA. And I think that goes for a lot of different folks, and we'll see how that plays out. I think he has surpassed his backcourt mate, Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal puts the points up, and there's not going to be 2 Wizards. We're not getting 2 Wizards on All-NBA.
No.
If we're not getting 2 Suns, we might get 2 Jazz, but that's just because they have Gobert, who's a center. So it's easier if you have a great center to fill that spot. So we'll probably get 2 Jazz, probably get 2 Lakers if AD and LeBron have played enough? Because at this point, maybe you don't even get LeBron, missing 24, 25 games. But I'm just hesitant to ever leave LeBron off the list. Any award we can give LeBron, he deserves. So,
sure.
so we'll see. But thinking about it beyond this season, All NBA, leading the league in assists, where does this put him historically? I know Scott Brooks said he's now the second best point guard, and I know you cringed at that. So tell me where you think he is, where he falls maybe in the top 50 to 75 best players to ever play the game.
I think you have to put Curry automatically in front of him.
And that, do you think that's more because of the chips or just all around how Curry has kind of changed the game?
Both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because you go play pickup now, and I play big when I'm in pickup, and there's no need for me because it's like 5 people trying to spread the floor with one rim runner going for
I don't think that's the thing about pickup now. I think pickup's always been that way though.
I don't know. They used to let me play big and pickup, and now I got people yelling at me doing this, telling me to clear the lane.
Because it wasn't to the same effect, but people wanted to Kobe, it was happening. Everyone wanted to shoot.
Even Kobe was a mid-range though. I'll tell you, we got 4 3-point shooters, and then we have one big guy rim running. And every team I play against in pickup looks like just an awful version of the 15-16 Warriors. That's it's just a horrendous version. A poor man's version of the 15-16 Warriors, or like the 14-15 Clippers or something. You got your 4, you got your Reddicks, you got your who your Matt Barneses, and then you got your rim runner, your DeAndre. So, but beyond that, you've got Curry ahead of him. So I guess who else contemporary do you have ahead of him? Right, KD and LeBron, for sure.
Do you want to call Harden a point guard?
Well, I don't call KD and LeBron. I was just thinking more generally. We could talk point guards, but I don't want to call Harden a point guard for the sake of this, because he's played the 2 for most of his career, and it became a different little setup. It's an unconventional 2 for sure, but he, until this year in Brooklyn, he was the shooting guard.
No, all through Houston, he was point.
He had the point guard on his team. He had Chris Paul on his team. Then the next year he had Westbrook, who got plenty of run at the 1. So, and his early years in Houston, he certainly wasn't what he became later on.
He led the league in assists.
Yeah. I'm not putting him at a point guard. I'll consider him a shooting guard, and we can agree to disagree.
Well, contemporary, I think there's really only Curry. And I don't know, I really don't like doing the all-time thing, because all I can look at is Basketball Reference for Stockton and Magic.
First of all, we're not.
Hey, I like Johnny Boy.
We're not putting John Stockton ahead of him.
I like Johnny Boy.
Who do you think would win 1-on-1?
Hey, you don't want to bet against Johnny Boy.
I don't know. We had him on Kobe Bryant NBA courtside on the N64, and I was putting up some 50 and 10s with John Stockton. So I don't know. You put him ahead of Russ just on what you can see on the Basketball Reference in his awkward Hall of Fame speech?
They're 2 different players. It's kind of hard to compare them.
He wouldn't beat Russ 1-on-1.
But that's the thing about Stockton, is he's not a 1-on-1 player. He's setting up others.
But even if they did the skills challenge, he wouldn't beat Russ in the skills challenge.
No, I think he would definitely beat Russ in the skills challenge. Russ would take at least like a minute to hit the 3-pointer.
That's kind of what I was thinking in my head too. But I would still take him over Stockton. I think so. Who else?
You gotta give consideration to Nash just for 2-time MVP.
Yeah. Nash is up there.
and then Kid.
Stockton's up there.
But Kid's not really up
Kid is
there
not.
because
There's no.
Westbrook's just super Kid.
If you look at Kid's numbers, and I know it's not all about numbers, but his numbers are horrendous.
Especially shooting.
Horrendous. I don't think if he played today, I don't think any defenses would respect his shot.
I mean, he ended up getting up to 40% his last couple of years.
I mean, these days defenses would just sag off of him. And so, I don't see how he's going to get those assist numbers when, defenses are just double teaming everyone and daring him to shoot anything. Because it's not just like he was a bad 3-point shooter. I mean, some of those years from the field, he's shooting like 37 and 38. So I saw a former NBA player, Rex Chapman, tweeted about his triple doubles versus Russ. And, like Russ stan Twitter is crazy. So then they just like all swarmed in there, hating on Jason Kidd. So, I'm certainly not a Jason Kidd hater, but I don't think his game holds up favorably next to Russ.
Well, no, because Russ can do what he can plus 15 points.
Yeah. And plus, there's not a lot of guys that Russ is a better shooter than, but I would definitely say he's a better shooter than Jason Kidd. So that's where we are. Russ just broke the triple-double record tonight. He's now at 182 all time. And what's crazy is, there's still 4 fucking games left in the regular season. There's still 4 games in the regular season. If this was a real season, an 82-game season, he would break his record, his single season 42 triple-double record. So there's a lot more to come. I mean, by the time it's all said and done, we could be looking at 260, 270, just a ridiculous number, which he's going to have to get if he wants to keep the record, because Luka and Jokic, Harden not so much, because Harden's the same age as him, so I don't see Harden or LeBron catching up, but Luka and Jokic, at this point in Russ's career, he probably had 3 or 4 triple doubles to where they're at right now. So do you see, just to kind of close this out, we know Robertson's record stood for, I don't have an exact year and I wish I did, but we know it stood for like 50 years, about 50 years. It's fine. I mean, he goes to the games, in a cane. He's 82. He's an old man. That record has stood for a long time. When that record is broken, when Russ's record is broken, will he be going to the games in a cane?
No.
Because it'll never be broken, or because it'll be sooner?
I think Luka, it really sucks that Russ's first 6 years, he wasn't really allowed to play Russ ball.
Yeah.
He had
to defer a little.
Because that cost him some time, and Luka's coming in at 19, just racking him up. And even though Luka's still not getting him at that high of a rate, he's got those bonus years to do it. So I don't think Jokic will catch him though. When
Russ first started getting him, it was the year Durant went down, 14-15, after the Thunder had traded for Enes Kanter. I don't know if you remember this. It was Durant went down at the end of the 14-15 year, and Russ just became a triple-double machine, running the pick and roll with Enes Kanter. And I know Russ doesn't run a whole bunch of pick and roll now, but that's really where it started that year. And it was so crazy at the time, because people were talking about, wow, look at his numbers. And we didn't even know how much further it would go. And I think he was averaging like 28, 8, and 8 or something to that effect. I could be give or take 1 on the rebounds and assists. It was something crazy, but not as crazy as what he's averaged since. But that was the year. And you have to give credit. There's a journalist for 538. What's that?
I don't have to.
No. I'm not talking about this. There's a journalist for 538. And I wish, I'm going to link to the piece in the description. But in 2016, the 15-16 season, when Durant was still Westbrook's teammate, the guy for 538 wrote a piece. And this is when Russ was probably like at 40, 50 triple doubles, probably less than 50. Wrote a piece saying Russ is the greatest triple-double machine of all time, and that all the statistics say he's going to break all these records. Just the foresight of that man. This was pre-MVP Russ, to write that article. And you can look it up. It's out there. I looked it up the other day just to see if it's still held up. And just shout out to that guy, because I don't even think he writes for 538 anymore. I don't even remember his name, but there's always like a piece, well, you know what, whatever you follow, and for this case, basketball, specifically being a Russ fan, there's always a piece you remember. And that's the one for me, that this guy, like in February 2016, proclaimed Russ as like the greatest triple-double machine we've ever seen, which at that point, you know, he's still 40 behind Kidd, 50 behind Magic, 140 behind Oscar. So just,
I think it's because like he was cranking them out consistently, you know.
Mhm.
But at that point, we get so used to Lance Stevenson being the season leader in triple doubles that like
people forget about that.
yeah. So I think it's just like, whoa, this guy's actually, you know, passing Lance Stevenson in a week, you know.
And I think that's a good spot for us to close, because I think that goes to the heart of this, where people hate on the triple double now, where the triple double has been so normalized. I think people forget that the year before Russ like really went crazy doing this, which I would say is 14-15 when Durant went out. The season before that, 13-14, Lance Stevenson led the league in triple doubles, born ready, with like 8 or 9. It was a rare statistic. The fact that a random player like Lance led the league in them, and he did it with like 8 or 9 of them, and it might be like 11 or 12, but it was a very small number. It's just crazy to me, and I think it just speaks to, like, you know, the uniqueness of Russ's game, that he just completely blew the lid off the stat and did it to the point where, you know, some of his detractors will pretend, you know, it's not even meaningful.
I think it is going to look like the 3-point stat, though, where it's a lot of current players pushing out everybody from the top 10. Except Oscar, probably.
And we're going to see that in a lot of things.
It's because of the pace.
But even with, like, you know, the new players breaking this and that, it's not every day that you see a player break an all-time record. Even LeBron, you know, isn't number one on that many things. Even he's behind Kareem and Karl Malone and all those guys. So even Curry, he's going to pass Ray Allen sometime next year, but even he is not number one on the three-pointers made. And it just goes to show you how we're talking about how the stats are inflated because of pace and all that, but it is not every day that somebody breaks an all-time record. You know, the NBA is 75 years old. A bunch of people, thousands of people have came and went. Different people have set different records. This is not something you see every day. So I think for a second, you know, we just have to sit back and respect what we saw. Just, you know, watch that. And
I do kind of hate that it came on a rebound, though. I kind of wish it was like a pointer assist, you know. I'm glad it wasn't a free throw, though, that he got it on.
That's true.
I just don't want to see the rebound highlight, you know. I'll never be that guy. I don't want to see the rebound highlight.
You know, I've got into like a Russ YouTube rabbit hole where I keep up with a lot of his games, to where now, like, I get algorithm videos from his most devoted fans, and it'll be headlines like Russ tough rebound versus Indiana, and it's like where I've like reached the point of Russ YouTube where I'm getting rebound highlights. And I agree with you about it coming on a rebound, although I think it's better than last night or 2 nights ago against the Pacers.
Because that assist, I wouldn't.
Where it came on an iffy assist where like Brad really did most of the work on that assist. So you can't always get what you want, but I think it would have been just a perfect storybook ending if he had made the game winner. Because that Denver game, I remember being in the film equipment room at UNT. I would sit with my friend down there and I would stream the games on my computer. And I remember just getting up out of my chair and just, you know, just yelling in the equipment room at UNT at that Denver game, because it was a 50-point triple-double with the game winner. I think it would have been incredible to see that tonight, because if he had made that bucket, it would have got him to 30. So it would have been a 30-20-10 again with the record, with the win. But we can't always get what we want. We still have to respect history. It was a great night. Congratulations to Russell Westbrook. Before we close out, Sebastian, any final thoughts?
I think we've given like 5 final thoughts here.
I know we have, because every time I try to close it out, you say something interesting and I want to jump right back in. you know I'm a pretty big Russ fan, so if you say something interesting, it's pretty easy for me to jump back in.
Now I think the rest of the season we just got to see if the Wizards can, set themselves up good for the play-in.
They got to push through. They got to push through because if they start losing again, I think the triple-double detractors are going to come out. So I would love to see them beat Atlanta in the rematch here on Wednesday on ESPN, and then finish out the season strong. And they got Cleveland and Charlotte. So I have them going 3-0.
Charlotte's super important. Charlotte's the marquee game.
That's the marquee game. That's basically a playoff game. Cleveland's the one that, they should win that no matter what. Cleveland's already kind of tanking. I think Kevin Love was a healthy scratch for them in their last game. They should win that. So I'm hoping they get a win in the rematch against Atlanta, take care of business against Cleveland, then the marquee matchup against Charlotte. So we'll close it out with that.
We know they're always winners in our hearts.
Yes, they are. We'll close it out with that. That's a special edition of Labor Street Park, Russell Westbrook Making History edition. Tomorrow, we'll be releasing we have an interview with the professor of fish ecology at University of Georgia, Marty Hamill. He was talking about the lake sturgeon. So we're going to drop that interview tomorrow. So we did boxing during the weekend. We did basketball today. Tomorrow, we're jumping into fish ecology. I hope you'll join us, tune into that. Very interesting discussion. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Have a great night.